had her share of challenges, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Well, here we are, the finale to the Portal Pacifist series. This started all the way back in January of 2023. God, I've been at this for way too long. Ugh. That aside, today we end the journey through Aperture Science once and for all. So far, I've beaten the original Portal and single-player campaign of its sequel, Portal 2. Through it all, I've ensured none of the sentry turrets met their end. Now, all that remains is to complete the final test chambers in Portal 2, the multiplayer campaign. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, let me give you a brief rundown on the rules. Firstly, no turret should end up disabled due to a player's actions. Now, you may have noticed, if you've been watching, that I worded that a little strangely. That's because this time I'm not alone. Given this is a multiplayer campaign, I will be extending this rule to my partner, Dropshock.
I'm Dropshock, and I'll be joining Redelia World in this challenge. Truthfully, I don't remember much about this run. We did this a few months ago, but I don't remember it being that bad, save for like a few late night runs we've done. Also, I run my own channel where I stream a variety of games to both YouTube and Twitch. I stream every other day at 5 PM PST, doing stuff like balloons, and currently, I'm running a series on Subnautica Below Zero.
With that all said, let's get back to the rules. In the past, I've been able to save and load as needed. Given this part of the game is multiplayer, the game realistically couldn't quite accommodate that. Should a turret ever be killed, we're not going to be reloading from the last save. No. But instead we're going to have to return to the hub and reattempt the entire chamber. Also, any and all glitches will be allowed because, spoiler alert, we're gonna need them. Finally, the conditions to win are simply to reach the end of the campaign, completing all 6 testing tracks. With that all said, let's get right into the challenge. The first course is pretty basic stuff, mainly existing to show me and Dropshock the ins and outs of working together. GLaDOS is still here, speaking over the speaker system and making sure to mess with us all throughout. Most of the chambers aren't any different than normal, given there aren't any turrets in the way. And given the lack of turrets, let's briefly go over the best way to get past them. Most essential to this challenge is going to be the closing animation. If you don't know, there is a single second where a turret sees you before it actually begins firing, which isn't a lot of time. But the turrets have a flaw that can provide us with a lot of extra time on top of that. See, if a turret sees a player, but then loses track of them, it's going to begin searching. Eventually, after around 4 seconds, it will give up its search and begin to close. This takes about 2 to 3 seconds. That may seem insignificant, at least until you realize it cannot cancel this action. Once a turret decides to close, it's going to first close before it decides to even look around again. In other words, if you were to move once this animation starts, that 1 second you had prior turns into nearly 4. This little exploit has made so many tricks in the past possible, such as the end of the campaign where I first used it to run past this massive number of observant robots. And now it'll serve its purpose right here in the first course. Chamber 3 is the first to contain the trigger-happy robots, placing a whopping 4 turrets behind this glass wall. Glass is an enemy to this challenge, given it makes it harder to use the closing animation. If a turret can still see you, that animation doesn't start. If I were on my own, that could realistically be a problem. But luckily I have a partner. The plan was relatively simple for this chamber. I would hide in one of the few spots that could avoid the line of sight of the turrets before rushing in. As I got in there, I would grab one of the turrets and then run as close to Dropshock as I could. Although inevitably, I will end up dead, which is where Dropshock takes over.
With a deadly element on commission, I would take over from there, retrieving the falling turret, saving my backup right, and making sure it doesn't completely shut down.
And we never failed once! Listen, there were growing pains. We all start somewhere. Anyway, we get the hang of it soon enough and succeed at moving all 4 of them. Moving right along, the rest of the course returns to being absent of robots, aside from GLaDOS' voice over the speakers, of course, so we can move on from here to course 2. Well, not seeing any turrets around here. Nope, not here either. Man, final area of the course and not one turret has shown itself. Maybe they're demoralized. Jokes aside, nothing here differs from the normal playthrough of Course 2, so let's get right along to Course 3. Really? Okay, this is getting— oh! Turrets! Finally, something applicable to the challenge! You're intended to block their view and walk right past them. Well, considering the next chamber also removes any risk by having us automatically grab this turret, maybe the game has actually caught on to the challenge.
Or, hear me out here. Someone hit the turret and found me acid during playtesting.
Let me have this, damn it. Anyway, the second half of this chamber is a lot less generous, even if remaining simple. Although that didn't stop us from making our fair share of mistakes. Actually, couldn't you just stand in the way of them?
I feel like, okay, you know, that's too smart for me. Okay, try again.
Oh. Hey, at least we got there in the end. Honestly, all we really had to do was use this button to cross the other platform, use the cube to weigh the button down, and then make a mad dash for the end using the closing animation exploit. Beating this course isn't really rocket science. With that in mind, let's move on to Course 4, already halfway there. Surely nothing's gonna get worse.
Since I never expected you to make it this far, I have to build this new course just for you.
Well, that's not concerning at all. Still, this all starts off pretty simple. I mean, the first chamber just has me move this single turret, and that's not really a problem. As for the final chamber of the course, the entire first half is nothing bad, and the second just has me go up, move the turrets, move on, and oh boy. Welcome back to the turret production line, an area that gave us issues last time, and is back again to riddle us with problems. This chamber starts off simple, requiring the use of the funnel to traverse the skies and a hard light bridge to stop the turrets from being any the wiser. But sadly, that's just the first half. Following this, we move on to a section where the funnel part is the same, but the hard light bridge is used to knock down the turrets instead.
I mean, there's probably a way around it, right?
Nope, place is full of death planes to make sure you stay on course.
Maybe we solve for closing animation?
Kinda hard with the funnel being the mode of transport.
What did you do last time?
Oh, well, last time I used a speedrun strat to bypass the production line. But surely I couldn't do that again. Oh my god! Okay. Well, many thanks to... okay, breaking character here. Strangely, I couldn't find the video that I used to use the skip. It's just seemingly gone. Whether the YouTube video got deleted or simply isn't showing up, I'm honestly not too sure. Even so, I can say that getting here is perfectly possible. First, we're going to use the funnel here, notably at the beginning of the test, rather than the end. Then, you drop out early, landing here on this support beam. And as much as I'd love to say that would be the end, we're sadly on the wrong side here. So next up, we're going to have to jump around the beam, right to the opposite side. Luckily, that's the worst of it. From there, all you have to do is jump onto the side of the conveyor belt, walk along till you reach the back, and finally use this panel to replace the funnel and float over to the exit. That's right, this skips 90% of the test. And with that, we can move on to Course 4. Honestly, much to my relief, because if that got any worse, oh my god. Whoa, let's hold on a second. I'm gonna be blunt here. As few as the chambers with turrets are in this course, they are by far the hardest part of the game. We could go over there now, but I think it'd be better to save the craziest part for last. So, with that in mind, let's move over to Course 6 instead, and then we'll work our way back for the finale. So, first chamber here, and we already have a set of turrets to handle, along with a glass wall separating me from my partner. On the left, we have 2 turrets, and on the right, we have another 2, though these are noticeably farther away. Using the closing animation exploit, there isn't too much challenge here, thankfully. Given half the chambers here feature turrets, honestly this is much to my relief. Moving on to chamber 4, we encounter a turret actually pretty early on.
We are not 100,000 years in the future. I lied about that.
It's a
It's been
business worker.
50,000 years. No, it has.
Luckily, doing office work isn't much of a problem for us.
You know, I don't think he likes being looked at as a tourist attraction.
Moving on to chamber 5, we see 4 more of them placed pretty high up. Simply move them out of the way, and moving on is a piece of cake. And the good doesn't even stop there. The next chamber doesn't even feature any turrets. Unfortunately, chamber 7 isn't nice enough to give us that luxury. In fact, it's actually pretty scary. Okay, let's see here. We can get this cube as normal. So far, so good. There's half the solution, but the other half is here in this corridor. Turrets on either side to make sure this is a pain. Given reaching them wouldn't do much good, we're gonna have to simply work around them. Position the extrusion funnel and the laser to reverse it. Lastly, place a portal on these 2 panels cautiously before throwing the ball into it. If all goes well, your partner should be there to catch the ball and put it in the receptacle. Nothing of note after that to activate the elevator.
Okay, that was a lot easier than it looked. So I guess all my internal dread was for nothing.
And to be honest, chamber 7's even easier. The only turrets around here are these 2, and to beat them, you just use the closing animation exploit again. That aside, the rest of the test poses literally no threat. So given that, I think it's time for the most painful part of the run. Course 5. So, here we are, the finale for the challenge. In no way is this going to be easy. In fact, despite containing only 2 chambers with turrets present, I would go so far as to say these 2 chambers are the hardest in the entire series. First, we'll have a look at chamber 6. Okay, not looking great so far. A pair of towers with 3 turrets, each overlooking the exit door. Well, that just means me and Dropshock need to get there at the same time, right? Oh, I wish it were that simple! See, the devs didn't seem to like the idea of players being able to exit the chamber by those means. So they made one change to this door here that makes that idea fail. What did they do exactly? Well, unlike every other door so far, this door not only checks for both players, but also whether or not the turrets overlooking it are dead. In other words, there is no exit solution to the chamber until you kill the turrets. So, it was at this point I turned to the internet. Maybe some form of speedrun could work? No, speedrunners solve this test normally, if in an extremely fast manner. And I'm gonna be honest, at that point things were looking pretty bad. That's usually my last resort. As far as I could tell, this was starting to look like a chamber that would do us in. I mean, how are you supposed to get past a door when you can't even reach the turrets? Not to mention, upon checking via console commands, I discovered these turrets couldn't simply be picked up, as if we didn't have enough problems already. Experiment after experiment, idea after idea, finding a breakthrough honestly took a long time, but eventually I came to this thought process. In order to beat this chamber without killing the turrets, one of 2 things is going to need to happen. Either A, we're going to need to find a way to get past this door. Sadly for this idea, the devs didn't really leave a way past the door, or even past the geometry of the box. I checked the roof, the walls, even the floor. There was just no hole in the geometry I could exploit. Okay, not great, but we still have option B. Observing the turrets, I found that by standing on this cube and letting the turrets across the way fire, the turrets closest to me and my partner would begin to wobble. Going off that observation, I would turn cheats back on and fly over to the opposite platform to try something. Landing on that platform, I found that should I get the other turrets to fire at me and wait long enough, Not only could I knock over the turrets by myself, but even the ones on the other platform. Finally, I had hope. But that's far from a solution. The first problem here is pretty obvious. This is going to result in the death of the turrets. And to be frank, whether this is our fault is kind of up to interpretation. I like to look at it from the perspective of Minecraft. So long as you didn't touch a monster as it perished, the game notably doesn't award you with the Monster Hunter achievement. This is why you can have a skeleton shoot another mob dead and receive no advancement. I look at this scenario in the same way. In this case, I'm getting turrets to cause their own demise, similar to a skeleton killing something else. Could it be argued that the turrets wouldn't be firing if I wasn't standing there? Absolutely. But as I said, this is a matter of interpretation. So let me know in the comments, do you think that's a valid solution? Well, it honestly doesn't matter one way or another if I can't get up there in the first place. Luckily, that problem is very much solvable. First, you need to know about a concept known as reportals. A reportal is a speedrunning strategy that involves the use of the portal gun to give oneself momentum. It works as such. If you stand inside a portal and then place another portal in Portal 2, the game will consequently push you out of said portal. In other words, it would apply a small amount of force to the player. Normally, this is to prevent you standing inside the wall. But if one were to move their portal just as they were landing inside the portal, that same rule would apply. Using this, it's actually possible to gain a small bit of momentum to launch each other to the railing, usually inaccessible. So okay, we're up here now. What good does that do? You might assume you could jump from here to the opposite turret tower, but no. See, you actually can't jump that far, falling just short. So that's merely step 1. Luckily, this chamber happens to feature a way to get higher. And as I learned in high school, higher means that something can travel farther. So new question. Can we use this cube to jump over to the tower? Yes, provided you know how to manipulate the movement of the game. Something I didn't know how to do. I'm going to leave a link in the video description, which basically goes over all the movement tech of Portal 2. It's a really good resource, honestly, and if you want to learn how to handle it, be my guest. Here's what I did. As I jumped, I would fling my mouse toward the platform. Did that work most of the time? No, but that took me ages to get right, and it did work eventually. And then the turrets managed to kill me. But hey, if I did it once, I can do it again. Look, the point is I did it eventually, and that's that chamber done. We're left with one more to go. That was... oh my god. Chamber 8 starts with a pretty simple trick in order to save the turret here. As you can see, a turret has been placed at the end of this walkway. If we walk forward, blue gel will fall from the ceiling, casting this turret into the abyss. You could try and reach it, and that might be possible, except it seemingly doesn't target you until you pass this point. The turret does actually notice you should you happen to jump, and that's actually the reason that we could save this turret in the first place. If we wait for the closing animation exploit, and then move precisely and carefully, and reach the turret in time, we can grab it all before it bounces off into the air. Okay, correction. If we can move carefully and grab it before the blue gel even touches it, it's safe. God, so specific. Moving on, we move on to a room that seems tough, at least at first glance. But we can actually cross it just by bouncing slightly lower than the game expects. After that, I can just use a bit more blue gel to jump up here, using the closing animation exploit to move the turrets. What? Okay, not cool game, not cool. If you couldn't tell what just happened, the game decided that instead of letting me go around the turrets to move them, it should instead spawn a massive amount of blue gel to cause the turrets to die instead. Plain dirty now, eh? Well, two can play at that game. Upon further inspection, the game also considered we might try and float above them, so no dice there. However, in trying to stop me from skipping them, they've actually given me the perfect way to complete the chamber. Earlier, while experimenting, I happened to drop some blue gel just in front of the turrets. Then, while trying to jump over the turrets to this railing, I accidentally had this happen. Oh!
you have something?
I'm on top of the invisible box.
Oh.
This is not an expected development. For some reason, the top of this invisible box was just left here to be stood upon. But hey, you won't hear any complaints from me because that means this chamber goes from impossible to suddenly very possible. Walking to the end of this invisible platform and leaving some blue gel down below, we can simply jump across to the other side, press the button, all while the turrets are safe and sound. And after that, it's one more massive leap to the end of this course, and the end of Portal 2's massive multiplayer campaign. When I first started this, I honestly never expected I'd be here, having to beat the entirety of the series this way. There were so many times I thought, surely this is impossible. And yet, in the face of those tests, no matter the odds, I always persevered. So with that all said, is it possible to beat Portal 2 without killing the turrets? Maybe. In my opinion, yes, but honestly, Chamber 6 of Course 5 makes this very much up to interpretation. I think that's about as close as I could get it, but hey, if you think you could do better, feel free to let me know in the comments. Maybe there's some method I couldn't think of, but that's where I leave things. Thank you so much for watching. Have a grand day.